Some stories hold such immense power that they have the potential to transform an entire league overnight. This is one of those stories. It all starts with a bold question. Sophie Cunningham has just entered the most intense spotlight in basketball, and her partnership with Caitlin Clark could mark a turning point.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so excited.
If you think this is just another free agency story, think again. This goes far beyond typical trade rumors. Welcome to a bold new chapter for the Indiana Fever, where drama, redemption, and an unrelenting hunger to win come together in unexpected ways. When news broke that Sophie Cunningham was heading to Indiana, the reaction was a mix of surprise and intrigue. Even her loyal fans in Phoenix hadn't anticipated such a swift departure. But from the moment she was introduced,
I didn't come here for the spotlight. I didn't come here to have more eyes. I came here to win.
Sophie Cunningham didn't come to Indiana to ride the wave or bask in Caitlin Clark's spotlight. She came to help build something new. While fans were already captivated by the Fever's evolution, with Clark turning every game into a national spectacle, the addition of Sophie raised a question. Why her? The answer goes far beyond her three-point shooting. The Fever needed grit, someone unafraid to respond when cheap shots were aimed at their biggest star. Sophie's fiery energy and unapologetic swagger seemed like the perfect match. Fever fan forums erupted with excitement. Many hailed her as Clark's ideal sidekick or hype partner, her enforcer, and maybe even the voice, willing to stir things up in a league where too many prefer to play it safe. But beneath the enthusiasm were quieter questions. Why had she left Phoenix so quickly? Her time with the Mercury wasn't all confetti and championships. Yes, she developed under the legendary Diana Taurasi, sharpened her shot, and brought her trademark toughness to the court. But behind the scenes, something felt off. Whispers circulated about personality clashes, political differences, and a fractured team culture that may have held Sophie back. Though she remained professional in public, a recent interview hinted at what she left behind. She spoke of feeling free in Indiana, subtle jab that hinted her game. Or perhaps her voice had been restrained in Phoenix. Observers connected the dots, and one name came up repeatedly: Natasha Cloud. While no accusations were made, speculation pointed to deeper locker room drama. For Sophie, leaving may have been the only way to fully reset, but with a fresh start came immense pressure. Like it or not, joining Caitlin Clark meant stepping into the brightest spotlight of her career. Clark is more than a rising a phenomenon. Her presence sends ticket sales soaring, packs arenas, and dominates media coverage. But not everyone in the league is celebrating. Some players quietly wonder if her fame overshadows the achievements of veterans who've carried the league for years. The media frenzy only intensified as Caitlin settled in with the Fever, sparking debate over fairness, recognition, and the league's future. Still, she remains unshaken. And that's where Sophie fits in. From the start, she's voiced her admiration for Clark's resilience and impact. Now, she's more than a teammate. She's a vital part.
She has changed our game in the best possible way in every way.
Sophie Cunningham didn't come to Indiana to ride the wave or bask in Caitlin Clark's spotlight. She came to help build something new. While fans were already captivated by the Fever's evolution, with Clark turning every game into a national spectacle, the addition of Sophie raised a question. Why her? The answer goes far beyond her three-point shooting. The Fever needed grit, someone unafraid to respond when cheap shots were aimed at their biggest star. Sophie's fiery energy and unapologetic swagger seemed like the perfect match. Fever fan forums erupted with excitement. Many hailed her as Clark's ideal sidekick or hype partner, her enforcer, and maybe even the voice willing to stir things up in a league where too many preferred to play it safe. But beneath the enthusiasm were quieter questions. Why had she left Phoenix so quickly? Her time with the Mercury wasn't all confetti and championships. Yes, she developed under the legendary Diana Taurasi, sharpened her shot, and brought her trademark toughness to the court. But behind the scenes, something felt off. Whispers circulated about personality clashes, political differences, and a fractured team culture that may have held Sophie back. Though she remained professional in public, a recent interview hinted at what she left behind. She spoke of feeling free in Indiana, subtle jab that hinted her game. Or perhaps her voice had been restrained in Phoenix. Observers connected the dots, and one name came up repeatedly: Natasha Cloud. While no accusations were made, speculation pointed to deeper locker room drama. For Sophie, leaving may have been the only way to fully reset. Sophie Cunningham's immediate support for Caitlin Clark struck a chord with fans. This wasn't just a new teammate hopping on the bandwagon. Sophie had been in Caitlin's corner. Long before joining the Fever, that authenticity made an impact. Suddenly, fans of the WNBA's biggest star had a new favorite in Sophie, and the chemistry between them began to redefine the team's identity. But as powerful as their alliance might be, the WNBA remains a high-pressure environment, one bubbling with tension just beneath its polished surface. Behind the highlight reels and post-game embraces lie bruised egos.
Come on, it's part of something great that doesn't come around very often. And
Once Indiana Fever fans got over the initial shock of Sophie Cunningham's arrival, they quickly realized just how seamlessly she fit into the puzzle. A lethal three-point shooter, scrappy defender, an expert at riling up opponents at just the right moment, Sophie brought more than skill, she brought edge. She became an immediate role model for the Fever's young roster, showing them how to navigate the pressure cooker that is today's WNBA. But what truly cemented Sophie's importance wasn't just her performance on the court, it was her presence off it. She's articulate, disarming, and refreshingly candid in interviews. Reporters gravitate toward her because she's real, not rehearsed. Unlike players who avoid the media, Sophie embraces the spotlight for one simple reason. She understands its power in growing the game. Suddenly, interview requests tripled. Sponsors took notice. Social media buzz around Sophie began rivaling that of more established stars. In one press conference, she looked straight into the cameras and praised Caitlin Clark's historic rise. "I know it's part of the package." Fans loved it. So did the media. And soon, the rest of the league took notice. But Sophie didn't just offer praise, she issued a quiet warning. If anyone came at Caitlin Clark with a cheap shot, they'd have to deal with Sophie on the very next play. That promise earned her instant admiration in Indiana, where fans were tired of watching their superstar get pushed around without consequence. In a single stroke, Sophie became both the Fever's charismatic ambassador and Clark's on-court enforcer. Still, the glowing headlines masked a deeper story. The Phoenix drama hadn't entirely disappeared. Was the negativity left behind, or would it eventually catch up to her in Indiana? The press leaned into the redemption arc, painting Sophie's move as a fresh start, a transition from a fractured Mercury locker room to the open arms of a Caitlin Clark-led dynasty. But real life rarely follows clean narratives. Sophie's interviews, while upbeat, carried hints of caution. She often emphasized the importance of an ego-free locker room, raising eyebrows among those who remembered her rumored fallout with Mercury teammates. Behind the scenes, Fever leadership was laser-focused on keeping the team unified. Caitlin's meteoric rise had already created a media frenzy, and the last thing they needed was internal drama. One tweet, one misunderstood quote, could ignite a narrative spiral. Sophie understood that. Instead of shying away, she leaned in. "I learned a lot from Phoenix, both good and bad," she admitted in one interview. "This is my chance to help set the tone with a group of players who want the same thing, a championship." It was exactly what fans wanted to hear. But a question still lingered. Could a team this stacked with talent, media attention, and past baggage truly stay drama-free? To everyone's surprise, the Sophie-Caitlin duo caught fire instantly. Attendance at Fever games soared again. Merchandise sales doubled, then tripled. Major networks restructured their schedules to showcase Indiana in primetime, a scenario almost unthinkable just 2 years earlier. For decades, WNBA athletes had battled for visibility and respect. Suddenly, the blueprint for commercial success was clear. Unleash the magnetism of Caitlin Clark. Surround her with compelling personalities like Sophie, and deliver must-watch storylines. But was it sustainable? Behind the surge in popularity, deeper issues brewed. Veteran players reminded the world that Caitlin and Sophie were benefiting from the foundation they built: years of struggle, sacrifice, and advocacy. They wanted their slice of the growing pie. The friction spilled onto the court in the form of cryptic social posts, sharp elbows, and tense post-game quotes. For Sophie, this meant navigating a minefield. Her vocal loyalty to Caitlin won her praise, but it also painted a target on her back. She knew one misstep could make her a villain to half the league. Yet, Sophie thrived. Her leadership on the bench was visible, cheering, strategizing, defending. She exchanged quick glances and encouragement with Caitlin during games, barked at refs over missed calls, and hyped up her teammates with the energy of someone who knew the magnitude of the moment. Fans responded in kind. They didn't just root for the Fever, they believed in them. The WNBA was on the verge of something historic. Still, beneath the hype, old rivalries lingered. Some stars seethed quietly, frustrated their achievements had never drawn this kind of spotlight. Others viewed Indiana's rise as a signal that the league's culture was shifting from veteran-driven respect to headline-driven momentum. That tension flared most when teams met on the court. All it took was one hard screen or veiled comment to turn sparks into fire. Meanwhile, a massive moment loomed: the WNBA's next collective bargaining agreement. Players, emboldened by record-breaking revenues, were demanding more money, better travel, greater respect. Some hinted at a strike if conditions didn't improve. Owners, suddenly flush with profits, played coy, crediting momentum instead of the obvious. Caitlin Clark. So where does Sophie Cunningham fit into all this? She's become more than a player, she's now a face of the movement. She speaks up, calls out injustice, hypes her squad, and brings fans along for the ride. But that visibility is a double-edged sword. One wrong phrase, one misunderstood moment, and the target grows. Still, if Sophie plays her cards right, she could stand at the forefront of a revolution. As the WNBA barrels into a new era with brighter lights, bigger paychecks, and bolder voices, the biggest question isn't whether the league will change, it's how, and whether Sophie and Caitlin's partnership will hold through the inevitable turbulence. So here we are.